Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to be having a look at the AK90. And for difficulty level, well, I guess you're using everything as intended. So that'll be tier 1. Now you might have seen some of these things before as part of the famous AK family. We've got the AK47, the AK74 as well, and they're all pretty similar. So the way to tell them apart, AK47 has side mounted optics, the AK74 has top mounted optics, and the AK90 is a red box. For the software, I use it in an XP virtual machine. I'm fairly sure I had it working on Windows 7 at some stage. When I went to Windows 10, couldn't really get it to work. There is possibly ways of getting it to work fiddling around with the drivers, but to keep it at least more reliable, I went to sort of an XP virtual machine that I've got for some Mercedes diagnostics, stuck it inside of there, and it's all working well, as you don't really want this thing glitching out when you're doing bits and pieces. And these are handy for doing stuff with keys on BMW EWS boxes, and it will work on quite a few different types. The main one you're probably going to be doing is this push-on connector with a little line down the side, and that is for the majority of your EWS 2 and 3, and it does mark it there on the top. There is also another little port there for EWS 4, which you might have on some US cars and Z3s and X3s, sorry, Z4s and X3s. I've lost my lead for that one, but I do have other bits and pieces that will work, so I'm not exactly crying over it. But it is a handy tool to have for quite a few little jobs. Here's some of my collection of EWS boxes. We can have them. This is EWS 2, comes in an aluminium box. I think that's more of an American one, and you might find that in Z3s. EWS 2 with a purple plug. Again, we got a yellow plug on this one. An EWS 2 yellow plug, which comes in a black plastic case that splits side to side rather than the white plastic one that jumps over the top. We've got an EWS 3, which is more E46 and E39 stuff, and it'll poke out through there. And then this one, EWS 4.3, which you might find in some later cars. And in fact, if you bought one from BMW, if your EWS 3 box went down, you would get an EWS 4 box, as they're programming them up and they're making them backwardly compatible, or at least that's the plan, because it's not really a great EWS box. You'll want to get the software installed, obviously, and once you do, once you fire it up, if it will, there we go, that's slow. First thing it will do is it will read a little internal key, which is kind of like a bit of a security dongle for them. And then that drops you into your main interface. If you haven't managed to get it to go in, you can try there, install USB driver, and it will install the drive that it has. It's not an FTDI driver like you'll normally find. It's some silicon art bridge CP something or another. But once you get it all up and running, you should be into this page, and then you're able to pick the different kind of modules you've got up here. So you have MCU. Now go with the MCU one. This one here, OD46K line, that can kind of work. That one is trying to read it through a diagnostic port. I would avoid using that one, as that's the one that could be dangerous. And there's a variety of different ones here. OD46J MCU, 1D47J MCU, 2D47J MCU. They're most of the EWS 2 and 3 versions. 2L86D is EWS 4, and that one there says to go with the cable, the one that I've lost. Key 1 can read any key. This one, 130A EML, that is the E46 key chips, but you can't get that chip anymore, so don't worry about that. And then these ones down the bottom, 7930 and 7935, those are the transponder chips you'd be using with these things for the variety of different keys you've got. When you get your EWS box out and open, have a look inside and you'll see some of the bits and pieces, including that big chip there in the middle, which is the main processor. And in the back of that, we can see this one is this 2D47J. Check the number that you've got on yours, as that's the one you'll want to be selecting when you're going for the reading. All of these will have lacquer on them, which is that kind of brownish orange color you can see sort of painted around. That's a conformal coating and designed to keep moisture out, but it does cover all the legs. So one of the things you will need to do is clean up the legs first and make sure you're getting a good contact. What I'd usually do is just one of these, simple little needle file. We give them a few rubs up and down the side until our orange starts going away and we start seeing shiny metal in the background, and then we know we got it nice and clean. Pay attention to the chip as well. You will see a little dot which marks pin 1, which for some reason is in the middle of these chips, and that will line up with our stripe that we have on our connector. So that will want to then go on that way. Push him on now. He'll then clip on nice and firmly, and there we go, he should be connected. Once you've got your socket on, you're ready to go over to the software. You'll want to pick the module you've got. So this was a 2D47J. You'll get this warning. You don't need to worry about that one because we're not connecting 12 volt power. That would be the K-line one, and I just avoid using this K-line stuff. Always use that little socket connector and just go directly onto the memory chip and you'll be fine. Click read, more warnings, and then go. And there it is. It's read and it has saved the file. You can click save. That'll go somewhere. Remember where you saved it. And then you can look at some of the other bits and pieces. EWS picture. That was just that warning about the 2D47J. EWS analyze though. That's where things start getting interesting. So it should tell you your VIN number, your EWS type. We do have the GM, the SA and the VN, which are some of the option codes. We have some more details down here. This is always wrong. We always a serial number. They always miss out a digit because they only show 6 rather than 7. So it missed off the letter B. So don't worry about that thing. And then we also have the status of the keys, which ones have been used and which ones have been locked. If you want, you can edit the VIN number here as well. Let's just go AA00000. Right back to EWS. There's the same kind of warning. Make sure you got the right one selected, which we have. Don't connect power. And that's it now, writing the data back in. This does it in sort of smaller bursts. You'll hear it ticking away. And once we get to the end, we should get a little message, a little smiley face saying verified. Although, to be honest, I'm not sure if it actually does any verifying because it always says that, I think, no matter what. Verify. Okay, it reckons. We'll just read him back now. Hit OK. And we can save that. Go to EWS Analyze, and there we go. We see we've reread it and our VIN's changed. The VIN, to be honest, is not going to be all that important, but hey, if you want to do it, that's up to you. Mileage is also in there, but it can depend on the module. So this one is reading 0 as it hasn't been stored. I have seen plenty of E39s where it'll read something astronomical like 524,000. And again, on those ones, it hasn't been stored, but it's looked in an area where it's found some data, thought it was a mileage and displayed it. So don't worry if your odometer value isn't correct. So now we'll get into a bit more of the fun stuff that we have. So you'll always want to save the backup that you've got. Save every backup, as if you ever have an issue, you can restore to a backup. But remember, there can be some issues with that. So this here, the ones used, that means the key has been seen by the EWS box. Each EWS box has slots in there available where it can use up to 10 different keys. And normally, most of the cars will come with 4 brand new. And in this case, it's seen all of them before and it's marked them as being used, and that involves the rolling codes that are in them. This box here for locked would be to bar a key. So if you have lost any particular keys and you know what they are, you can bar them, but you do want to be careful with the key numbers, as BMW and the EWS stuff, since they only use 1 digit to store the key number, you will find that key 1 might be key 0 and key 10 would be key number 9. So be very careful with those and make sure you always got a backup saved. So I guess we'd better go over key codes first, so you know all about them and what stuff you'll need to be doing with them. Each one of these keys has 3 codes in it. One of them is going to be shared by all keys, and that's the equivalent of a VIN number, for example, and that will just say it is for this particular car. The next code is going to be kind of an ID, so it'll tell if it's key 1, 2, 3 or 4, or maybe even out of 7 or 8 if you have some extra keys added in. That kind of stuff will be used for memory seats or any other individual stuff you can have. So when you're using a particular key, it'll know to move a seat to this position or that position, and it can tell who's in there, which key you've got. The third code, though, that's the interesting one. That's the rolling code. Every time you use a key, it'll change the rolling code to something slightly different. Sometimes you can have issues if the battery's going flat and it's trying to generate a new rolling code. The EWS comes up with one, goes to write it into a key, the voltage dips out, then all of a sudden it's screwed up as both of those key codes are unsynced. If that happens, what you can do is untick the use box and allow it one chance just to use any rolling code. As long as the other keys match, the other key codes match, it'll give you one shot just to start off brand new again with a new rolling code, and it'll start off from that point again. If you've had some major screw up on your EWS as well, and you're going back to a backup, remember the backup is going to have rolling codes from when you took the backup, which could be weeks, days, months, years ago. So you're going to probably find that a lot of those things won't work. So what you'd want to do every time you're going to a backup is probably best to go through, untick all of these and allow them to generate fresh set of rolling codes again. So that can often get a key working, or it can also save your ass if you have had some sort of screw up and you've cloned an EWS box and you've got some problems. And that also nicely brings me into cloning EWS. So if you had an EWS box, say for example this one, there's a chip missing there because I've unsoldered that one. So this is an EWS box that isn't going to work. If you have the same part numbers in a spare, like this one, I don't know if this one is going to be the same part numbers, but say for example you did manage to get them matching, what you should be able to do is clone the data from one. So you clone it all out of the yellow one, stick it into our magenta purple one, write all the data, and that should copy over everything at the point of when you made the backup. So if the keys are, if everything's still working, not a problem. If you're doing it from a backup from a long time ago, remember to untick all of those key used marker boxes, as that's going to be based on when the rolling codes the keys had months ago. You might also have issues with the EWS rolling code to your engine ECU, depending on what kind of EWS you've got. These particular ones are EWS2, so they have a fixed code, so it wouldn't matter on those. So this one is an EWS3 box. You can recognize that because you have this smaller plug compared to the big round pins that you have on this one. This is your E46, E39 style one. But again, same sort of thing, same processor. Clean the legs up, stick your chip socket on the top, read it, and you can do your bits and pieces. Now, on these ones, you have an extra set of codes, or an extra set of rolling codes. You have key to EWS box, and that was the set of 3 codes that we mentioned earlier. A fixed that they all share, a separate identifier for each key, and then a rolling code of the key. And then there's a next set, which is EWS box to your engine ECU. That's not related to the key codes at all in the slightest, but on EWS 3 stuff, that's a rolling code. So if you are fiddling around with these ones, make sure you got some diagnostics, because you might need to reset the rolling code from EWS to your engine ECU. And the final one it will work with, EWS4. Now this isn't a particularly great example, but at least the main thing is just see what it looks like. So EWS4, you're going to need to use that other little cable, and as you pick through it, it'll tell you where you need to make your connection. So you're going to need to solder wires on to read that. And then it'll come up with the same sort of thing. Your EWS analyze, your used keys, your locked keys, and so on. And you can fiddle around with that kind of stuff if you want. So you're halfway there. That is reading your EWS box, either 2, 3, or 4, saving a copy, and then just doing the basic things of fiddling around with keys being used and keys being locked. So the next thing is, what if you want to make a new key? The kind of keys that will work with are these two. Your old-fashioned one with the rubber buttons and the famous diamond key. And you're going to also need some of these, which are the key chips that go inside. Inside the old-fashioned rubber button key, we've got a key chip, and he's hiding just there. The diamond keys are different, however. They've only got one chip inside, and that one chip does your EWS immobilizer key codes and your remote unlocking, and you can't get these chips anymore. That is the 130A that you'll see listed in the AK90. So if you could get a blank one of those, that's what you'd use to program it, but you can't get them. So any aftermarket diamond key comes with a little circuit board inside that just does your remote unlocking, and also a spare one of these chips. The key chips you need are specialized. So although we can see the number on this one, this is 7930, and that's a fairly common one. They do need to be preset. So you can't just buy any PCF 7930 and expect it to work, as there's a little bit of coding missing. So that coding is what you'll see sometimes mention them as ID44. So ID44 is essentially the mode that they're working in. And although you can buy them fully blank, and some programmers can set one particular mode, so you could use them on loads of different cars, the AK90 needs them preset as ID44. So if you're looking around for any of these key chips, check to make sure, first off, that somebody said that they are specifically used with the AK90. Or if it is one of these 7930s, check that it specifically says BMW and ID44. So what do you do then when you want to write a key? So first thing, make sure you get yourself your read, save your backup, and then go over and click this write key button. It is in this section of factory key 130A. Don't worry about that, because as it opens up, there you can select the transponder type, and it's going to be one of these PCFs. It'll list there all the key slots that you can use. Now, these first 4 ones we saw were already used, so they might be keys that you've already got. I would recommend starting off with key slot 10, because if anybody orders a key from BMW, they're going to get sent out key 5. And if you've already made and lost key 5, then that key from BMW is money down the drain. So let's say you pick key 10, right key, put key to coil, right, yes, no, click yes, and then I'm sticking the little, holding the little transponder there inside of that. It's going to read it. This one, in fact, is already a used key, so it's not actually going to write anything into this one. But we'll see what it says. It's trying. It's struggling. It can't figure out what's going on. If you had a blank key, this would just go through perfectly fine. And it comes up with write error. So that's fair, because this key chip has already been used. But if you had a blank key chip, that would have been written. You can then stick that into your key, and then that will work in your car. So what else does it do? Well, you can also go to key 1, click read EWS, grab one of your key chips, put them in the coil, and there we go. That's read the data out of that one. So if you have got a load of spare keys hanging around and you're not sure what they're from, that'll be able to tell you the VIN numbers out of them as well. And that does work on pretty much everything. So let's give them another shot. You can also get to that in this test key. That'll do the same thing. And there we go. That's the diamond key read. And also it will read E90 keys. And there's the details from that one. No luck on F-Series keys though. It'll just sit there waiting, and because they don't talk in the same way, nothing turns up. Stick a different one in. There we go. So that's all you need to know about the AK90. You'll be able to reset a used key if one of yours has gone faulty and stopped working. You'll be able to clone your EWS box into something else, make a new key if you've got the right key chip, and also if you've got some spare keys hanging around and you don't know what they're from, you'll be able to read the VIN numbers out and figure out which keys are which. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.